Hello, hi, so welcome to Collapse Talk. This is Gabriel Marrero. I'm glad you could join me, considering the circumstances, but let's be honest, those of us who truly pay attention aren't really shocked or surprised. I mean, it sucks, it really does, but this was what, it was going to come to this, we all knew that. So, again, we're just living in the wake of this monumental and just astounding court case, this decision from the Supreme Court. I mean, this is quite literally a coup that we're witnessing. Many people aren't, saying, what it is, but this is what's happening. It's a coup, with the Republicans appointing these judges and then the judges lying under oath, because out of four of them, they already said that Roe v. Wade was a super precedent, and then they just overturned it. So, again, this is very obviously politically motivated, at the very least religiously motivated, which that alone should disqualify these judges. But, hey, we're living in the twilight zone and the upside down, and yeah, things aren't great. And again, this is the collapse, and things are accelerating, and who knows where things are going to go. But, again, I'm glad that y'all are here listening with my takes on this, and we're just going to have to follow this journey because, again, this is I don't even know how to put it, how to frame it, because, you couldn't get a clearer sign that we're literally in a Christian fascist state, a white supremacist Christian fascist state. Women are quite literally second-class citizens now. I mean, even in the states where abortion is legal, they still have to live under the specter of the national ban that the GOP wants to make, and they will get it because they get everything that they want. So that's just where, I don't want to spread doomerism about this. We certainly have to mobilize and fight this, but let's be real, okay? Because the Democrats are going to fucking lose this midterm. They really are. And they had the chance to do this. They had to fucking get this done, and they didn't because they wanted to keep that. That's the only way that they could get the funding, right? The fundraising. I mean, they literally sent out the texts and emails like they had it ready. They knew it was gonna come. So it's just this is all planned, It's just oh, we're very saddened, and this is just an urgent time. We have to dude, there's literally clips now of Obama when he was campaigning in 2007 saying that first order of business is to codify Roe v. Wade. And then once he's in office, you see, because we have higher priorities. And it's just and then even all those 8 years, he never once said, okay, because at the start of his presidency, he was dealing with this economic crisis. So, okay, just deal with that. And now that the crisis has gone away, hey, so now that you dealt with that, can you codify Roe v. Wade? So they don't care. Okay, this is my point with Democrats for a long time. This is why I didn't vote for them last election. I didn't vote for Joe Biden. Again, it's just this is not a, again, for those of you who don't know, I did vote for Jo Jorgensen purely because she said she would abolish the ATF. That was my single issue, gun rights, because the collapse is here, so I need to be armed. But yeah, I just don't again, I feel terrible for the women. All the women that I follow on social media are petrified. They're so afraid. And then it's also telling because there's a couple of guys that I follow that they might make a little comment. I'm furious, and it's no secret that I'm pissed off about this on social media. I'm very much upfront about what I am. And I'm not doing this because I'm trying to win favor with women. No, this is seriously fucked up. Okay? It is. All right? And, not just because of the human rights angle, because the UN deems forced birth as a crime against humanity. So, there's that, which is a huge factor. But then it's also the political angle. It's Christian fascism. It's rearing its head. It's here. It's always been here, but it's full on mask off. It's right there in front of you. And then again, it's oh, no, but Russia and China. Dude, it's right there. And I'm talking specifically to liberals. I'm talking specifically to the blue MAGA, the K-Hive. Jesus Christ. Then they're all projecting and they're all going back to 2016 talking about, you see, not enough people voted for Hillary Clinton. Bro, she was a terrible candidate. You guys fucked over Bernie Sanders because he actually had momentum. You guys stuck with the establishment, and the establishment does not want to improve things. They don't care about us. All right? They don't care. Again, man, I work for this company called Grassroots Voter Outreach, and so I call for fundraising. And today we were calling for HRC and Planned Parenthood. And okay, so like the decision came out on Thursday, which was like the day after my birthday. No, Friday. My birthday's Thursday. Yeah, I turned 26. Hooray! No health insurance. The decision came out, and like quite literally, it came out like right as the shift started, and of course, I was taking a break, but I just like I looked at the announcement, I looked at the time, I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be awkward, because dude, again, like I live in a constant state of doom, so like this isn't a surprise for me. But the people that I work with are very much like they're normies, okay? They're well-meaning people, optimistic people, and they haven't fully processed that things are falling apart. So yeah, I would imagine that this ruling would have actually shocked them. So again, that's just the state of affairs. And again, online, I've just been on the warpath and just dealing with trolls. And I posted a meme. If y'all peruse history memes, I posted a meme of the Soviet Union, because they were the first to codify abortions. And all these people are just coming out just like, oh, okay, well, I guess the Soviet Union did one good thing. We got to let go of all these other bad things. And I'm just like, I didn't say that, but sure, go ahead. It's just like, oh, no, we have to, because the Soviet Union did one good thing, and I guess we can absolve all the bad things they did, right? But then you make a negative comment about the United States. Oh, well, the United States only did one bad thing. Just one bad thing. That's to them, that's one bad thing. Oh, well, everybody else does it, or, oh, well, we just got to let go of all the things that they've done. It's just like, again, this is my fault for trying to have reasonable conversations and assuming that people actually give a shit, about human rights and shit. Again, I'm not saying that the Soviet Union hasn't committed crimes against humanity. They did. It's just it's impossible to have a state and not commit war crimes. It just happens, okay? But Jesus fucking Christ, man, I'm getting distracted because I want to focus on this. But yeah, the Soviet Union legalized abortions, or they codified it. Because one of the points that people were making is that abortion was available in the United States up until Roe v. Wade. But the whole point that I was making was the Soviet Union was the first to say women have the right to an abortion. They do. Now, of course, in the 30s, they took that back. And so there's discrepancies. I'm aware of that. But the first nation to say, no, women, they need access to abortions was the Soviet Union. Okay? And that should not be forgotten, because look at where we're at now. The women's bodies are a states' rights issue now. Oh no, because we got to protect the abortion, we got to protect the babies, and literally, when I said, hey, forced birth are a literal crime against humanity. They're these fucking incels. They're coming out saying, well, you see, nobody's forcing you to have sex. Nobody's this is what I fucking mean, man. These people, they hate women who don't have sex with them. Okay, now listen. I never get laid. Nobody ever hits me up, okay? So, I guess, technically I'm an incel, whatever. But, it's if I get turned down, I've had to deal with rejection sensitivity, but it's never fuck this bitch. I never get like that, okay? It's more just I get hard on myself because I'm just oh, I'm inadequate. Oh, what? I gotta do this. And a lot of the times it's just she's not feeling it. It's I take things too personally, and that's something I have to deal with. But at the very least, I don't want to turn women into second-class citizens. I don't want a state-mandated wife. Jesus Christ, dude. Arranged marriages. I really steer clear from because my mom, and she tries to hey, you should check out with this girl. I'm no, I don't want arranged anything. No, I want to earn it. Okay. And again, I'm getting a little too personal, but it's more just Jesus Christ, these guys are fucking creeps and weirdos. It's just well, nobody's forcing you to have sex. Huh? Nobody, you need personal responsibility, right? Because parenthood is a punitive sentence to these people, right? Here's what I was thinking. It's just hey, if somebody is irresponsible with sex, what makes you think they're going to be a good parent? Seriously. And I'm not saying this in an eugenic sense, because it's just that. That's very easy to get into that, to that rabbit hole. But it's just what makes you think forcing somebody to have a baby that they're not ready for, that they can't sustain? What makes you think that that's going to help things? And then watch, you're going to have protective services, child protective services come around because clearly they can't take care of this baby. and they didn't have access to abortion. So now they had this baby that they can't take care of. And then the foster care, whatever, they come through. Oh, well, we got to take your baby away because you can't provide for it. And that's your fault. Even though, like, we took away your right to terminate the pregnancy and you wouldn't be in this position. And then the kid goes into the foster care system. And that is, like, not something that they should, like, the American foster care system is horrible. It's horrific. And like, there's going to be a backlog. All these people are talking about, oh, we'll adopt your kid. Don't abort your babies. Hey, why don't you adopt the kid right now? I mean, again, these weirdos, they shouldn't be adopting children. But it's just like even some people were operating under the assumption that, like, we actually have measures and benefits like maternity leave and, daycare, like, paid for. It's just like that. I'm getting flustered because it's just, like, so upsetting. Yeah. And, I was hanging out with a friend's place, just for, like, the birthday weekend. And, like, he was working. And I'm just like, I looked at the phone. I just go to him and, like, hey, don't want to kill the vibe. But, yeah, Roe v. Wade's been overturned. So, again, it's just no surprise. And then it's not only that. They also made some rulings about the Miranda rights. So, like, police don't have to tell you your rights. So, like... you still have those rights. They just don't have to tell you. That is fun. They also ruled that states can't deny religious schools state funding, which is also great. I mean, I bet you Republicans are going to love state funding for Islamic schools, right? Right. Today, they just ruled that, like, public school teachers can lead prayer sessions now. Like, what the fuck? Like, imagine now you're going to a public school, you have to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then, like, the teacher's also saying, okay, and now we're going to have to make a prayer for the day, and, oh, thank you, Jesus Christ. And, like, watch, there's, like, a Hindu kid, a Muslim kid, he's like, what the fuck do I do? Literally, like, I was an atheist. I mean, I am an atheist, and I was pretty much, like, an atheist edgelord through high school. But it's, like, even if I express my opinion saying, like, I'm an atheist, I don't want to pray, it's, like, gets all this kind of judgment, and, like, yeah, man, it's just, yeah, not good. And they also had gun law rulings, so states can't, again, they're all about states' rights, right? But the state, like, it's not like, from what I understand, the states can't create systems that, where they can deem who can have weapons, right? It's like a may permit or shall permit. And so the Supreme Court ruled that they have to, like, they shall permit. I'm a bit muddy on that because, like, to be honest, like, whatever, because, like, it sucks. But of course, like, I was more focused on this Roe v. Wade ruling and, the aftermath from that. And we're already seeing the effects. We're already seeing the effects of it. Like, already clinics in Canada, possibly Mexico, are already backlogged. The blue states that are allowing abortions are also getting backlogged. And basically, what's going to happen now is it's just going to be an underground railroad for, people who want to terminate pregnancies, either transporting them out of state or providing, smuggling in, oral medication, or, it's just, again, like, we're entering a horrific time period. And there are people who are genuinely happy about that. Like, they're giddy. Like, again, there's people who are they're happy about it because, oh, this is a victory for pro-life. Oh, this is a victory. But there are also people who are, like, genuinely happy that women are terrified right now. They are. Like, I literally, like, there was one guy commenting on my on that meme I posted on History Memes, and he was like, "Ha, yeah, cope and seethe. Now we're gonna go for a full wide nation ban." And I just called him a rapist because that's a rapist mentality. And I got banned because they're like, oh, he had a shit opinion, but you can't call him a rapist. And I'm like, you know what? You're a fucking rapist for defending him. How about that? I don't care anymore. It's just like, how the fuck do we allow this shit? And then people go out on the street saying, hey, we don't want to turn women to second-class citizens. And then all these fucking videos now of cops, clearly, bashing people in, shooting them in the face, pepper spraying. Right, protect and serve, right? Oh no, we got to maintain law and order. These guys came out with, like, all this riot gear, like stormtroopers. They had snipers out on it, like, buildings is what they were reporting. Like, I saw a video of, like, the state capitol building. They had people firing tear gas grenades from the windows. Like, and this is in response to protests over abortion rights. Do you see, like, dude, like, this is it. Like, oh my God. And again, land of the free. We're about to have 4th of July. And of course, like, I'm going to get some invitations, right, to some barbecue event. Oh, let's go. No, fuck that. I'm not proud to be an American right now. I'm not. And you know what? Like, you want me to leave the country? Buy me a fucking ticket. I'll go to Cuba. I don't care anymore. I really don't fucking care. Jesus Christ, man. This is terrible, man. The way that we have to live. And we just have to live with it. Oh, well, you see, because, well, the Constitution doesn't guarantee the right to an abortion, you know. And you see, like, these constitutional originalists that it's all about the legal semantics. They don't care about ethics. To them, the ethics doesn't really matter because the legalists, they're legalists, right? So the letter of the law is all that matters, okay? Don't consider any ethics or morality, right? I really wonder what these originalists would have been saying, you know, during the Civil War period and the 13th Amendment was being proposed. Man, I really wonder what they would have been saying. Please, man. It's just ridiculous, man. It's a fucking joke of a nation. Like, even the G7, like, I'm reading from some updates from CNN, and I saw recently that they said that the G7, they were concerned because, like, normal, like, sane countries, they just guarantee that. Yeah, so I'm reading from CNN. So G7 leaders very sad and very worried following rollback of Roe v. Wade, EU Commission chief tells CNN. EU Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen said on Monday that, quote, many voices at the G7 summit were left, quote, very sad and very worried by the U.S. Supreme Court decision to reverse Roe v. Wade. Quote, we have discussed gender equality, and indeed, there were many voices very sad and very worried, quote, end quote, von der Leyen said. When asked by CNN's Christiane Amanpour about the Supreme Court's decision, which repealed the constitutional right to abortion in the U.S., von der Leyen, the only woman leader at the G7 leadership meeting taking place in Germany, called the decision, quote, a setback. Right. Again, like we're a fucking joke of a nation, dude. Okay? And it fucking sucks if I have to travel out of the country and then I got to deal with somebody like getting on my ass, like, oh, your people are rolling back. Like, why are you getting mad at me? Why are you fucking making fun of me? I don't want this. I don't want to fucking live with this. Jesus Christ. One good thing I will say, though, is that a Louisiana judge temporarily blocked the state's trigger abortion ban. So that's like one sliver of like good news, at least today. Quote, a Louisiana judge has blocked the state's trigger law on abortion, which took effect on Friday, just days after the U.S. Supreme Court's overturned Roe v. Wade. Orleans Parish Civil District Court Judge Robin Giarrusso issued the temporary restraining order in response to a lawsuit filed Monday morning by the Center of Reproductive Rights and Boyce Schiller Flexner LLP on behalf of the Hope Medical Group for Women and Medical Students for Choice. The lawsuit, which was filed on behalf of Hope Medical Group in Shreveport, Louisiana, and Medical Students for Choice, argued that the trigger bans are unconstitutionally vague. Quote, because the trigger bans lack constitutionally required safeguards to prevent arbitrary enforcement, they are void for vagueness, and they, therefore, must be struck down for this separate and independent reason, the suit stated. The temporary restraining order prohibits the State Attorney General and the Secretary of Louisiana's Department of Health from enforcing or implementing the trigger ban on legislation for now until a hearing is scheduled on July 8th. So now at least women have abortion rights for maybe a week or so in Louisiana. Wow, such hope there. Man, it's fucking ridiculous. And already you're seeing companies coming out, they're willing to cover travel costs out of state for abortions. So like companies are stepping up. They're also like, I also read somewhere that Wisconsin, like they have like a really old anti-abortion law, which the Democratic governor said he'll just completely void it. So I mean, already you're going to see states just like not cooperating with it, or they're just going to like conspire, or it's like there's a real divide now. And these red states and blue states now are just like there's a complete rift. This is like, it's not just abortion rights, like politically there's a complete rift now. I mean, I have no patience for these people anymore. I really don't. I just don't. This is not an opinion that is worthy of our time. That is worthy of our respect. It's not. Okay. So we shouldn't operate on the assumption that we can have a reasonable discussion and try to find common ground. No. No. You're either pro-choice or you're not. That's it. And then, they always put this straw man of late-term abortions thinking that, like, so you just want to terminate a baby, like weeks before it's due? It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? That barely makes up like 1% of the abortions, okay? That only happens because of some like medical emergency at that point. You don't really think that a woman is going to put herself through 8 months of just like, God, I can't even, like, the more I research pregnancy, like, the more terrifying it is for me. Like, the less inclined I am to, like, put my prospective partner down the line, if I ever have one, through that. Like, I know girls and women who have, like, talked to me about guys that, like, they get, like, into this breeding fetish, and it's just like, yeah, put a baby in you. It's like, dude, that's fucking creepy and rapey. It really is. Jesus Christ, man. Like, it's one thing to say, like, when you're talking with your partner, hey, I would like to be a dad, but we can do it at your pace. Like, that's totally normal and very healthy for a relationship. Because you want kids, great. That's a discussion you have to have with your partner. But, like, you can't insist, I want a kid by this time in my life, because, dude, what the fuck, man? What the fuck? It's so fucking weird, man. Again, this is all about owning women. This idea that, like, women are just, like, because again, they talk about hypersexuality and hookup culture. And again, like, I do have comments to make about that, but it's more so about, like, the commodification of sex, which is a lot to do with, like, marketing and advertising agencies and the media. It's not like women are just fast and loose and, oh no, we gotta rein them back a bit because, like, no, what the fuck? What are you talking about? Jesus Christ, man. Again, I realize that, like, I never get laid because my life is just a fucking train wreck and I'm clingy and codependent. All right, that's just something I have to work with, and, like, I don't know, like, how long that will take. Who knows? I try to put myself out there. I put initiative in. I ask out girls, like, I do. Women, like, I do. I ask them out, and again, they just don't see anything in me, which is something that I have to fix. Of course, though, we're living in a collapsing society, so, like, I don't really know, like, I can't live up to whatever expectations, but whatever. That's beside the point. But it's just like, Jesus Christ, man, these people, they, instead of, like, trying to have some self-reflection and self-improvement, maybe working out, getting a job, and I'm not like one of those pull yourself by the bootstrap types, but still, like, you gotta take your, you gotta get your shit together, right? I'm also talking to myself, but Jesus, man, it's just like, oh no, do I need to have self-reflection and, try to improve myself in order to attract a woman into my life? Nah, let's reduce their rights and make them second-class citizens, because I just want to own women, and I want to have, I want to have a blowjob 3000 plus dishwashing thing that I can have, and then it will be at my beck and call. Like, that's the idea. That's making America great again. The 50s housewife that, has to, use Quaaludes and benzos to get through the day, because, like, Jesus Christ, she's like a slave. She's fucking, God. I'm sorry, man. One of the reasons why I get so upset at this, like, nuclear family household attitude about women and about having them being submissive, and, like, the issue that I have is because, like, I come from a line of very strong and independent women. Okay, like, my grandmothers did not fuck around. These women, they had to deal with all these deadbeat, my grandpas were deadbeats. They really are. They were just like, Jesus Christ. Like both of my parents were born out of wedlock. Now, of course, I do speak with respect, because, like, for my mother's side, like, it was like a hookup, and then my grandpa went to America, and then he was like, oh, I have a daughter. And he probably has more kids. But then with my other grandpa, my paternal grandpa, it's like, he hooked up with my grandma, and then, like, he was just went off and did his own thing. And the only reason that he acknowledged my father was because his new wife, like, asked him, it's like, do you have any kids? And he said no. So already he lied to her. And then my grandma was like, no, this is his son. And their stepmom was like, okay, you're gonna do that. So that's the only reason that my grandfather acknowledged my dad, is because his wife forced him to. Because if his wife was like some other people, because again, they were, like, a little wealthier, they, like, oh no, you can't, he's black, you can't, that this is a shame this is a stain on our honor. Like, it could have very easily gone that route, and then my dad would have never been acknowledged. Like, again, I come from a line of women that have had to step up to the plate, had to take care of their kids. Again, like my name is maternal. It's from the maternal line. So like, again, this is not just something like that's political. It's also very personal because, I wouldn't be living in America if it wasn't for my grandma who said, you know what? I'm going to work and provide for my kid and give him a better life. And I want to bring him to America. Now, of course, looking in hindsight, like I wish I had a time travel machine and just be like, hey, Canada's not so bad, or maybe New Zealand, or like, again, not that that would have happened, but still, it's just like, it's like I have to look at that and honor that will to provide and step up to the plate, but also it's just like, oh man, if only she knew where things would go. But again, I know I kind of came out and just like, because it's just a lot, and we're all upset, we're all pissed off, and just like, like. Not just at the Republicans, but also the Democrats, because they're also complicit in this. They really are, and they're not serious about it. They're not. They could move to put an amendment down right now, and they could get it through. It's just, well, not necessarily an amendment, but it's just again, they could do it, but they're not serious. And Joe Biden already he's already like pro life. He has all these comments against Roe v. Wade from the 70s, so he's not serious about it either. Like he doesn't want to pack the courts, and again, people are saying like, oh, so you just want to pack the courts and end the filibuster? Yeah. If that means women get full rights, yeah, definitely. I don't give a shit anymore. Fuck you. All right. I don't care. Any conservative that honestly wants, like, you're not worthy of having any kind of conversation with me anymore. Okay, no. All right, I just block people now. Oh, you're just gonna block me because you don't want? No, because your opinion is not worthy of anybody's respect. It isn't. It is inherently predicated on turning women, minorities, gays, queer folk, transsexuals. It's predicated on stepping on their rights and uplifting white men. Okay, if you're so like, what exactly you're trying to conserve? What exactly you're trying to return to the natural state of the United States, which is the land of the free for rich landed white men. Okay, that's what it is. Okay, it's just ridiculous, man. Fucking ridiculous. And so I did. We did some fundraising calls, and I was thinking actually that people would be upset, thinking like, why am I donating this and that? And things keep getting worse. But actually people were donating today and people were helping out. So that's a good sign. People are, I'm doing what I can, getting the fundraising to ACLU, Planned Parenthood, HRC. That's one avenue that I can help out in. But also, there has to be local organizing and mobilizing. I don't know exactly, because like I'm working paycheck to paycheck, so I'm just not in a position to really step up. But again, it's just do whatever you can, educate people, and definitely organize in your local areas. And again, like I said, this is the Underground Railroad, so like they're gonna start passing laws and making it so that if you assist people with transporting them across state lines, or smuggling, abortion drugs, whatever you want to call them, like they're going to clamp down on that. Like I bet you now, anytime there's a pregnant woman crossing state lines, they're just going to immediately investigate it, because that's what they do. Because this is an attack on women. This is a war on women. That's what it is, man. And these fucking idiots also, they don't think that, because this is over like bodily autonomy. Now they're setting a precedent that the states can determine what a person can do with their bodies. Like, it is absolutely going to be against men now. Like, you think men are untouchable from this? And then also, this lovely person, this Supreme Court Justice, and I use justice in quotes, Clarence Thomas, he also put notes saying that they want to go against contraceptives and same-sex marriage, even privacy in bathrooms. Man, wow. But there's surprisingly no comment on interracial marriages. I mean, I don't see anything about interracial marriages in the Constitution. So-called originalists. Wow, man. So upsetting. And then, like, this is literal violence against millions of women. Or, because, it's not just women. There are non-binary and transsexual people that can carry pregnancies. So, this is affecting them as well. And this is only going to affirm anti-trans bills, such as, transitioning and hormone therapy and gender surgeries. And that's only going to embolden that. And, invasions of privacy, like I was reading this Reddit post from this like paramedic or medical technician in Texas, and like they had a call, and so they had to they ran a blood work on the patient, and the patient did test positive for some sort of drug that would have terminated the pregnancy, and they were forced to report that. And of course, they said that they quit, but it's just like they don't even like prosecute people for drug use. Like if you're ODing and they put you in the hospital, they don't prosecute you for that. But if you're having complications for attempting to terminate the pregnancy because you had to use some herbal remedies or some over-the-counter shit instead of going to a clinic, and you go to the hospital, oh well, that's a homicide. Hell, they're investigating stillbirths and miscarriages that are like completely unrelated from terminating pregnancies. Like the person did not intend to terminate the pregnancy. They're investigating those as well as homicides. And it's just, oh no, this is what, and then of course people are trying to rationalize it, saying like, well, this is what the states have decided, the voters wanted it. Like, you know what, man, they're gonna go next, like fucking John Cornyn, he was saying, oh, we should go for Plessy v. Ferguson and Brown versus Education. Like, he literally said that on Twitter. You couldn't get a clearer sign that these assholes want to return us back to Jim Crow. A clearer, and then it's just like, oh, well, if that's what the voters want in the state, well then, like, oh my God. My goodness, man. Just saying this, this is a good time to learn how to shoot. That's all I have to say. Jesus fucking Christ, man. Wow, man. And then, yeah, it's just fucking ridiculous. And then, of course, the more you talk about it, the more problematic you are. It's not problematic that we're sliding into a fascist Christian state. It's problematic that you're pointing it out. Hey, man, you're being insightful. You're spreading conspiracies. Yeah. No, I'm just venting right now. I'm just upset. I'm just fucking ridiculous. But this is just where we are. This is where we are. Again, I try not to get things, under my skin. I try not to be surprised. But, hey, man, this is where we are. So, and then, it's so funny, man. We live in the fucking Twilight Zone, man. Like, Sarah Huckabee Sanders was saying, like, oh, well, now we can assure that women or children are safe in their classrooms, or like some fucking offhanded comment. And I'm just like, we're barely a month out of the Uvalde shooting, and then this is the comments that they're making. So-called pro-life. Wow, man. I hate it here. I really do. But why don't you leave? Buy me a fucking ticket, then I'll go. Just buy me a fucking ticket, bro. Alright? I will go to Cuba. Alright? I need to practice my Spanish anyway. Yeah. A less racist and socially conscious Dominican Republic. Wow. Yeah, I would love to go there. Jesus Christ. Anyway, so I'm going to read, because I've been talking about some like national efforts, but I want to read specifically about Texas, because Texas is going to have, oh man, good old Texas. Hey, we have one of those trigger laws that went into effect. We have pretty stringent rules. Here's the thing too, because like these fucking assholes I was like debating online, well not debating, just straight up just trolling, because like I didn't give a shit. They're operating under the assumption, like when I asked them, like, hey, what are your thoughts on like rape victims, and incest? Like, do you think that they should have the right to abortion? And then still they're like, well, we should prosecute the rapist, but we really shouldn't have to end the life just because of like that's the mentality that they have. It's just like, well, you see, this is a gift. Look on the bright side. It's like, dude, what the fuck? Do you have any idea how fucked up it would be if like you're spending your whole life and then you're thinking to yourself, hey, where's my dad? Who's my dad? And then your mom has to make up all these bullshit stories, and then already she's dealing with the trauma of being raped, and that's going to follow her for the rest of her life. And then she has to look at this child, and like already the conflict alone, because she doesn't want to feel guilty towards the kid, because it wasn't the kid's fault, but the kid is a reminder of this traumatic experience. Like, that already alone is just just fucks you up, man. God, I'm just so, like, these people are just fucking, like, getting on my nerves. And again, it always boils down to, well, just don't have sex. Because sex has consequences, and you need to learn personal responsibility. That's why I want you to that's why I'm going to force you to have a kid, because you need to learn how to be personally responsible. You know, even if, like, you took all the measures for protection, like, even with all the birth control that you can take, like, if the guy's wearing a condom and the girl's taking her birth control, like, there's still a very good chance, like, or very slim chance, even with all that a pregnancy can occur. And still then, oh, well, I mean, you just didn't, oh, you're irresponsible. You put yourself here. Wow, man. So again, I'm just furious, okay? Because a lot of women on social media are like saying, like, I don't see enough men talking about this, and being like, you're hearing it here, okay? I'm fucking furious, man. Jesus Christ, man. And it doesn't stop here. It doesn't. So, reading from this Dallas news site, just considering the abortion ban in Texas, the trigger law. So, like, they have like, one of the largest clinics in the country is in Houston, and they just had to cease everything right as the decision was made. Like, I personally know, I don't want to give too many details, but I personally know somebody who had an ectopic pregnancy, and, like, she was effectively, like, denied an abortion because, like, they have this, it's just ridiculous, man. And then, like, luckily she was able to travel out of state and, deal with that. But dude, like, they were going to force her to carry an ectopic pregnancy that has no chance, right? They're all about personhood, and, like, there's no chance that this thing is going to survive, okay? It's not even a person. It literally doesn't have a brain, okay? It's a vegetable. And they still want to force somebody to carry that through. My goodness, man. This is what I fucking mean, man. Anyway, like, so reading from this website, WFAA, from Dallas. So, the Supreme Court has overturned Roe v. Wade in a landmark abortion ruling released Friday, eliminating the constitutional right to an abortion, letting states decide on the issue. While many questions about the immediate impact remain to be answered, we already had an idea of how things are expected to unfold here in Texas. Before the memo was leaked, Texas was one of 13 states to already pass a trigger law, making most abortions illegal if Roe v. Wade is overturned. In a statement immediately after the ruling Friday, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton declared abortions illegal in Texas. Quote, "Today, the question of abortion returns to the state," Paxton said. Quote, "And in Texas, that question has already been answered. Abortion is illegal here. I look forward to defending the pro-life laws of Texas, the lives of all unborn children moving forward. Yeah, only to get shot in the fucking school. Dickheads." Paxton later released a legal advisory on the law, saying that Texas trigger law would go into effect 30 days after a judgment is issued by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court issued an opinion Friday, not a judgment. Paxton's advisory said the judgment would be issued after a window of time in which parties can file an appeal motion. Judgments can typically take about a month to be issued, Paxton said. Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick previously touted the state's trigger laws as ensuring, quote, "If Roe is overturned, abortion is banned in Texas." Quote, "I am sure the left will fight to allow abortions in Texas." Yes, we will, Patrick said. They will not win that fight. What is the Texas trigger law? Under the Texas trigger law, doctors would face up to life in prison and a $100,000 fine for performing an abortion. The lone exception to the law would be if a woman's life is in danger. People diagnosed with cancers while pregnant or are suffering from depression or other medical issues will not qualify for that exception. And again, like, it's going to be like, oh, if the life is in danger, but then it's going to go through some bureaucracy, and then, like, some pro-life, final judge, whatever they're going to do, they're just going to say, oh, well, you're not really, you're going to be fine. It's just, dude, like, a lot of women are going to die, man. People are going to fucking die. And these idiots are celebrating it. They love it. The mother would not face civil or criminal action according to the law. When would the Texas trigger law take effect? Texas total ban on abortions will start 30 days after a decision on Roe v. Wade. Like, I've already heard that they're just closing it down already. So, yeah. What do we know about the trigger law? Some elements of the trigger law remain unclear, including how it could impact women who have miscarriages and those who undergo in vitro fertilization. The law describes pregnant as the moment of fertilization. In IVF, there are often multiple embryos destroyed. Seema Mohapatra, who teaches health law and bioethics at SMU, told WFAA after the May opinion leak that some definitions in the trigger law still aren't clear. Quote, that could definitely put parts of the whole IVF process at legal risk. She said, quote, a lot of people are surprised that restrictions on abortions affect people who are seeking to become pregnant. According to the CDC, roughly 2% of infants born in the U.S. each year are from IVF. So what is Texas' current abortion law? Texas already bans abortions after 6 weeks with no exceptions of rape or incest. Lovely. That was part of Senate Bill 8 passed last year, which also allows a person to sue anyone who aids or abets an abortion for up to $10,000. So it's not just the police state, but also like people will snitch on you, and they have hotlines. And now it's just like, and this is going to be a common thread with this police state, because a lot of the times it's not really the surveillance cameras or whatever. It's your friends, it's your neighbors, it's your coworkers, it's your own family. I mean, I already feel it with myself. Like, I can't fully tell people what I'm really feeling and, what the things are going, because already I know that they're just going to they just pick up a phone and say, hey, Gabe, he's a communist. He wants to do this and that. I mean, not even that I'm because everything that I talk about is like community aid and networking, community defense. Oh, he wants people to be armed. He wants people to form militias. He wants to incite something. Like, that's what it's going to turn into. Of course, like, I always think to myself, like, if I ever get in front of because I feel like one day I'm going to have to deal with some legal battle, like, truly, and people are just going to say these things that I've said, which, like, I don't feel like any remorse for the things that I've said. Like, the things that I say, I believe it. I'm not grifting. I'm not trying to like start, be, flashy. Like, I believe what I say, so I don't feel the need to apologize in front of a judge or jury. But again, like, these judges and juries, like, they're all conservative fucking suburban yuppies, and yeah, there's no mercy for this. Even if I was able to provide evidence saying, like, actually no, like, here's some stuff that isn't exactly true, they would still vote against me, because it's like, well, we can't give those commies a win. Like, it's political. It's all political now. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. But what are the other laws that have trigger, or states that have trigger laws? And so there are, Texas is one of 13 states, right? And so those states are Arkansas, Idaho, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Tennessee, Utah, and Wyoming. And, again, it's just so fascinating to me that they're just hung up on the states' rights issued because, like, oh, well, I mean, that's what they voted. Never mind all the gerrymandering and all the, stuff that goes into, rigging elections in their favor so they can hide behind this idea. Like the vast majority of people want abortions, like over half of the country, okay? Like, I read somewhere like 60 to 80%. So, like, the people who are foisting this upon us, they are truly in the minority. They really are. My goodness, man. And, it's just like, and it's sad too, because there's some friends of mine that are conservative minded and they're great people, but then once this political conversation comes up, there's just a rift. And, like, like, some of these people I really love, like, these are good people, but it's just like your values are all fucked up when it comes to this specific issue. Because you're just hung up on, well, you see, like, again, if you wouldn't have an abortion, that is fine because you've made that choice. But you have no right to make the choice for other people. And then, again, what a surprise. The states that, have abstinence-only sex education tend to have the highest rates of teenage pregnancies and unplanned pregnancies. Holy shit, what a fucking surprise. So, yeah. So, and then, in a side note, because I kind of just ran across this article, but this is from USA Today, and so it's saying that Green Day's Billy Joe Armstrong says he is renouncing his U.S. citizenship. I feel like that's more people are going to be following suit with that. Good for him. I mean, because his, Green Day, he's always been anti-American. But yeah, man, so reading from USA, there's no room for patriotism for rocker Billy Joe Armstrong in the wake of the Roe v. Wade reversal. During a concert in London Friday, the Green Day frontman vented his frustration following the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling to overturn Roe v. Wade, which effectively removes Americans' constitutional right to an abortion. The 50-year-old singer might even be packing his bags for the UK in protest. I'm renouncing my citizenship, he said. I'm coming here. Armstrong continued, there's just too much stupid in the world to go back to that miserable excuse for a country. Oh, I'm not kidding. You're not going to get a lot of me in the coming days. It's like, you know what, man? If I could, I'd fucking go to, not necessarily the UK, but hey, I like at the very least, like, because I don't know if I can ever travel out of the country. At the very least, I need to go to part of the country that's like, because like I think that there's just gonna be a complete collapse, and so I would have to move to a part of the country that has like the strongest the stronghold for leftism and progressivism. I don't know where that would be. I still have to look that up. It's like I have to consider political factors, and then also with climate effects, like which part of the country isn't going to be a complete wasteland. So it's just like leftism and also habitability. So yeah, so the Green Day frontman Billy Joe Armstrong, he's saying this again, American Idiot, right? All these other songs were pretty anti-American, especially in the early 2000s, post 9/11, especially during the Iraq War. Yeah, man. So Armstrong and Green Day stepped into the political arena once more at the 2016 American Music Awards during a performance for their song Bang Bang. The band broke into a fiery chant that criticized the election of the then President Donald Trump. No Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA. Armstrong isn't the only singer to voice their dissatisfaction with the reversal of Roe v. Wade. Taking the stage on Saturday at the UK festival Glastonbury, pop star Olivia Rodrigo told festival goers that she is devastated and terrified following the SCOTUS ruling. She also dedicated her cover of the song 2009 Lily Allen hit Fuck You to Supreme Court Justices Samuel Alito, Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, and Amy Coney Barrett, and Brett Kavanaugh. Quote, so many women and girls are going to die because of this, Rodrigo added. Billie Eilish also headlined Glastonbury Friday, dedicated the performance of her song Your Power to the Supreme Court Justices who voted to overturn Roe v. Wade. Quote, the songs we're about to do is, I think, one of the favorites that we've written, and it's about the concept of power and how we need to always remember how not to abuse it, Eilish said. Quote, and today is a really, really dark day for women in the U.S. I'm just going to say that I cannot bear to think about it any longer in the moment. Yeah. And again, the pro-lifers, they're, just like getting all like, oh, you see, you're just acting like a child, okay? And, you just got to learn how to accept things that don't go your way. Like, that's the attitude that they have. Women have been turned to second-class citizens. Why are you being such a bitch? Why are you complaining? Why are you just, hey, you're a dude, so there's nothing's going to happen to you, okay? So stop crying. It's fucking ridiculous, man. I hate these people. I do. I hate them. Okay? I don't fucking care anymore. So anyway. And it's so funny too that they're so-called pro-life, and then these are the ones that like they love the fossil fuel industry, and that they love destroying the environment, like literally precipitating a mass extinction event of epic proportions, right? Oh, yeah, you're pro-life there, right? Oh, but you see, because, we don't really know the full effects, and like the Supreme Court is going to make a judgment against the EPA, and that's going to fuck up the environment even more. And it's just like, yes, this is good for business. It's just like, God, I fucking hate these people, okay? Just, there's no more room for discussion. Like, I don't care if I'm being divisive, okay? It's like, you want me to come to terms with somebody who's openly saying, I want to kill you, and I want to make life as hard as possible for you, and I want to destroy you. You want me to come to terms with that? You want me to come to terms with literal fascists? Like, they're not even hiding it anymore. Like, dude, these people are like celebrating, yes, we're returning Jesus to, like, dude, like, the whole point is separation of church and state, and that's like being stripped away. And then it's just like, yes, no, we're turning God to America, yes, because white people, Americans have to take in power. Like, dude, it's just like, that's what it is. That's what it is. These white people are afraid. They're losing power, and so they're grasping at everything, and they are the ones bringing us to the brink. They are. So whatever violence that comes down the line is their fault. Okay? It is. I don't care anymore. Jesus Christ. So I don't want to say too much because, I'm really fired up, and I don't want to be stuck with this topic because it just makes me so mad, so angry. And I'm the one that has to remain calm. I think my reaction is pretty, human, pretty on the nose considering everything that's occurring right now. Again, somebody was like, when I was trolling them on history memes, it's like, you know what? You're unwell. You need to get help. Hey, living in a white supremacist Christian fascist dystopia as a person of color is typically bad for your mental health. Okay, I can't imagine being queer or gay, being a woman. All right, Jesus Christ, man. Like I'm petrified to have a child now. I am, because then if it's a girl, Jesus Christ, like, my goodness. And my sister, she might have kids down the line. She wants to have kids, and it's just like, I can't tell her these things because like she doesn't fully grasp the situation that we're in. It's just so hard to explain to my family, saying like, hey man, we're heading in a really bad direction, and like, oh no, you're just overreacting. Like, and I literally like I'm studying history, so I'm pretty qualified to comment on these things now. And it's just like, oh no, you're being radicalized. Your people are just like influencing you, and it's just like, okay, whatever. Like these people have to learn the hard way. They really do. Okay, and then of course it's like somehow my fault that things fall apart because all I do is ever talk about it. Because like they just whatever. Oh my god. Like truly, if I have nieces or nephews, it's just like, my goodness, I don't know what to tell them. And then I have these younger girls, these younger cousins that, they're just now entering, young adulthood, and it's just like this fucking world that they have to inherit is so bad for them. And and I was talking with my cousin, again, like every woman has a story about some like really bad experience with a guy, like every woman, okay? And again, like I was talking earlier, like I've had issues with rejection. Again, it's never like attack against a woman, but already like that sensitivity, that's problematic in itself. It's fucking ridiculous, bro. Yeah, man. Men, right? It's funny too, like I'm terrified of men sometimes. Sometimes I'll go to a gas station at night, and it's just like I gotta be on guard, and like I now I don't have a firearm, but I definitely walk around with a switchblade. Like I have something. Because I don't know, because and it's a good thing that I'm a big guy too, so guys don't really feel the need to step up to me. But it's just like, men are fucking scary. They really are. They're terrifying. Because one wrong look and it's like, what the fuck? Well, what the fuck, man? It's just like, what the? And I couldn't even imagine what it would be like for men, like just to constantly be like, hey, what's up? Hey, you want to come back to my place? Hey, like, God, wow. Anyway. I'm getting distracted. I know that like opening was a bit jumbled, but it's like that's really how a lot of us feel right now. We just feel like just want to fucking scream, just scream and yell, and just like start throwing bricks at windows. Like, how the fuck can we expect? How the fuck can anybody expect us to just continue to live like this? Like nothing is happening, everything's fine. This is totally for a country, right? This is normal. So-called land of the free, and then 4th of July is going to run around, and then of course, oh no, you got to stand up. This is what our soldiers died for, to turn women into second-class citizens, right? Exactly. And then they are absolutely going to go after same-sex marriage, and then watch, they're going to go, they're going to say, well, the federal government has no right to determine the interracial marriage laws, so I mean, it should be left to the states. Like that's the out that they're going to give. Oh, it should be left to the states. We don't have a right to determine this. Basic fucking human rights. Watch, because like people are hung up on interracial marriage. Watch, people like, you're gonna hear this argument. Hey, yeah, maybe it's better off if people just married within their race. We don't really have to have this intermingling, like, because they have to protect the white race. Because oh no, the white race is getting diluted, so we have to. Oh, no more interracial marriage. Yeah, we're taking that. I hate these people. So anyway, I'm gonna move on to international efforts. Hopefully I won't be as emotionally volatile in that situation or discussing these topics, but yeah. So I wanted to discuss just touching real quick with the Ukraine war that's happening. This is new developments that have been occurring lately. They've been launching missile strikes. Russia has been launching missile strikes against Kiev. So the other day, I think yesterday, they had a missile strike a residential building, and today they had a missile hit a shopping center. So, I don't exactly know. I don't exactly know if, say, they just like launched the missile at the general direction and then it just hit somewhere in the city, or if this was a targeted attack. Yeah, and what they're saying is that, President Zelensky has said, quote, that this is one of the most brazen terrorist attacks in European history. At least 19 or 13 people have died. And this is in Kremenchuk. So they're hitting Kiev and they're also hitting other targets in Ukraine. Yeah, and Zelensky said that more than 1,000 people were in the building when it was hit. So who knows? Maybe, because what I've read is that what they do is that they'll put a transponder on the building and that's what the missile detects and hits. So maybe they have saboteurs and spies that are just putting transponders on different buildings and such. Again, because Russia has, fire support, but it's not as sophisticated as the United States. So, those transponders definitely help with getting those missiles in. So this is from the G7. World leaders from the largest industrial nations who are meeting in Germany have described the missile strike on the shopping center as abominable. In a joint statement, the G7 leaders said, quote, indiscriminate attacks on innocent civilians constitute a war crime, adding, quote, Russian President Putin and those responsible will be held accountable. Earlier, President Zelensky addressed the summit asking for more economic and military support and saying he wanted the wars to end before winter, which it won't, but the group have pledged to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. Further sanctions on Russia have also been discussed. So this is the problem now, because again, Ukraine cannot do this alone. And we're getting further and further entrenched into this. Like, this is not good. And already now, Lithuania has blocked access to Kaliningrad, that exclave, province that's on the Baltic Sea, and that's already causing issues. Like the tensions are really ramping up. Also, some Polish or Russia claimed that they had killed 2 battalions of Polish mercenaries and such, so that's already causing tensions. And then now NATO has announced that they're increasing its quick response force from 40,000 to 300,000 troops. This is a serious escalation that's happening. This is not good. And these people, they are we have to come to the table. We have to make diplomatic talks, and fuck it, just cede Crimea, cede Donbass and Luhansk, whatever. Just, dude, we are barreling towards nuclear war. We cannot, we can't have this. But I guess the sides, they don't want to give up. It's all a pride thing. It's power. And the more, that Ukraine gets sucked into this conflict, the more troops that they lose, the more material that they lose and munitions, it's going to allow Russia to go for a complete occupation. Okay, so Ukraine did well staving off the first phase, the lightning campaign, but now it's attrition and they're going to lose that. They will. Not to say that Russia isn't going to do any better, but they just have more soldiers to replace. So the NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said Russia's invasion was the biggest threat NATO has faced since the Cold War. The city of Lysychansk in eastern Ukraine was also hit by Russian shelling. Regional Governor Serhiy Haidai said at least 8 people have been killed and 21 were wounded in rocket strikes in the city. Just reading further. Right, so this is mainly just like a live update on this attack. So Ukraine requests UN Security Council meeting over Russia's strike. Ukraine has called for an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council over recent Russian strikes on civilian targets. The presidency of the UN body says the missile strike on a shopping center in the central city of Kremenchuk is understood to be the main task of the meeting, according to a spokesman for the Albanian mission, which currently holds the rotating Security Council presidency. It understood the shelling all over Kiev on Sunday, which hit a residential complex, will also be discussed at the meeting, which is scheduled to take place tomorrow evening. Yeah, and then this is just, it's just, the way things are for this war. But hey, man, this is just, again, we think it's bad now, and then it's going to keep getting worse. Dude, we've dropped $50 billion on Ukraine. Just dropped it. And then again, there's all this talk about, because we can't necessarily afford costs for healthcare and education. And, this and that. dude, like, again, this is what I mean, man. Like, people are, they just don't know. They just don't know where things are gonna go. But, the further NATO and the West gets entrenched into this, the more likely nuclear war comes to pass. They're playing with fire. I mean, Putin is willing. Putin will do it. People don't think it's gonna happen. He will do it. If man, again, some people hear that story. This is a common myth or anecdotal tale about Putin. And so there was a childhood friend of his who had discussed a conversation that they had, and Putin was talking about an experience that he had trying to get rid of a mouse, a rat. And so he backed the rat into a corner, and when that happened, the rat lunged at him. It jumped. It just went berserk. It just and he learned from that. He learned that if you back, not just a rat, any animal, any well-trained animal, if you back them into a corner and you start fucking with them and you start poking and throwing rocks and shit and kicking them, they are going to strike. They're going to attack. That's just what's going to happen. And I'm not saying here that Putin is a good guy, because it's so weird seeing leftists defend this guy, standing Putin. I get it, when you're talking about NATO encirclement, that's not good either, but this guy is not oh no, because you worked for the KGB, bro. He is not a leftist. He's a czar. That's what he is. He's only concerned about power and wealth. Again, this is just ridiculous where everything is happening. So, reading onward, so there's those missile strikes that have been happening, and they're going to continue to happen. It's going to escalate. There's also, I'm reading from Yahoo News, a report that Ukrainian special ops are carrying out raids on Russian territory. So this is there was a helicopter raid on an oil factory a couple months ago, and then now there's supposedly special forces operators infiltrating Russian territory and committing, carrying out raids. So this is this is something that they shouldn't be doing. As much as you want to, cause havoc, because the Russians have said it, if there are missile strikes or shelling from Ukrainian territory into Russia, that will see a serious response. So it's just this is what's happening now. They're going behind enemy lines or going into enemy territory and sovereign territory to carry out raids, and that's only going to escalate things. So again, this is a really, really thin ice situation that's happening. And so, reading from Yahoo, the newspaper obtained interviews with anonymous fighters participating in these operations, known by their call signs Adonis and 22. It's unclear to the Times what are the ultimate goals of Ukrainian military operations on the Russian territory, but evidence suggests that sabotage attacks on Russian oil refineries, munitions storage facilities, and communication infrastructures are undermining Russia's offensive capabilities. The UK newspaper mentions Ukraine's Shaman Battalion is involved in these operations and is going deeper into Russia. It's been known that Shaman Battalion is known for a 10th Special Operations Division, which is usually assigned to conduct intelligence operations and assist in short-term offensives. The Shaman Battalion accepts only those servicemen who have gone through advanced training, including diving, parachuting, mountain climbing. Excellent physical condition is a mandatory prerequisite for joining this military group. So, these guys are this is the best. This is the cream of the crop. At this stage of the war, the Shaman Battalion is focusing on damaging the Russian infrastructure used for the invasion for Ukrainian territory. For this, the Shaman fighters have accomplished several raids on Russia that haven't been announced publicly. The Shaman Battalion relies on helicopters to transport its fighters to the Russian territory using tactics of flying as close to the ground as possible to avoid being noticed by Russian air defenses. Operations on the enemy territories are the most interesting missions, the Shaman fighters told the Times. Quote, "We use explosives during them after crossing the front lines and the state border." Adonis says the Russians usually can't believe that the Ukrainian army is actually behind those raids. Most of the time, they just can't believe we paid them a visit. Both Adonis and 22 have been fighting against Russia since 2014, when it invaded Crimea and the Donbass. To join the Special Forces Division, they went through a complicated training program. But raids on Russian territory are not the only mission for the Shaman fighters. Beside those assignments, they do training sessions for newly recruited soldiers, focusing on tactical technologies. During the initial stage of the war, the Shaman Battalion participated in Ukraine's defensive operation in Hostel, which was one of the biggest battles of Russia's war against Ukraine, when it still had plans to conquer Kiev, using paratrooper groups to land. Okay, so they said Hostel, I think they meant Hostomel, using paratrooper groups to land as many Russian troops in the northern Ukraine as possible. Right. After the Hostomel operation, Shaman was deployed in Moshun, a village to the west of Kiev that is an important geographical location sitting near the bridge over the Irpin River and the neighboring swamps. This route could have been used by the Russian army to invade Kiev from the west, but the Russian advance was stopped in the course of several weeks. When Russian troops started retreating from the Kiev outskirts, Shaman fighters followed them all the way to the Belarus border, hitting their positions and speeding their retreat. So, again, because tactically speaking, conducting small raids, surgical raids like this, that's effective, and that's certainly something that could, mess up the supply lines and communications, gas and such. But it's still just be very careful. It's probably better not to do that because, that's only going to escalate things. And, as I'm saying, we have to come to the table. We can't allow things to get out of hand because it's very easy. This is not really a safe time. So that's the Ukraine war. Again, I don't want to discuss too much on that because there's a lot more going on in the world than just Ukraine. And so we just, have to pay attention. And so right now, there are other things that are happening in the world. Specifically, I want to talk about Latin America, South America, because, we're seeing a new episode of this so-called pink wave, right, of leftist movements that are taking hold. There's Ecuador and Colombia and other South American nations that have had development. So I just wanted to talk about real quick about Ecuador, mainly because of prices on consumer goods, fuel prices, and they've had massive protests and strikes. And today they've announced that, Ecuador has announced that they will make cuts. So, again, this is a good news to see that people are rising up and standing up against this. This is going to be a continued trend within the global south where they're going to be affected by these consumer prices, fuel prices, and we're going to see more of this kind of stuff. So, thankfully in this situation for Ecuador, the government did concede to the mob, and so they're going to cut prices. So, I'm reading from BBC. So, protesters have blocked key roads and staged massive rallies demanding action on fuel and food prices, some of which have turned violent. In response, Guillermo Lasso vowed to cut 10 cents a gallon for both petrol and diesel prices. That is only a third as much as demonstrators have demanded. Since 2020, the cost of diesel has almost doubled, and petrol prices have risen dramatically in the oil-producing nation. President Lasso also said that despite his move to lower fuel prices, any violent protesters would face consequences for their actions. Quote, Ecuadorians who seek dialogue will find a government with an outstretched hand, he said in a Sunday night address. Those who seek chaos and violence and terrorism will find the full force of the law. So again, it's just you can protest and we can negotiate, but it's always going to be on their terms. And again, they're always going to meet, mobilization in the street with violence because the state has the monopoly of violence. So the move comes after an initial meeting between the government and the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities of Ecuador, or CONAE, which began the demonstration. So this has been largely an indigenous movement because they're the ones who are living in the working class and low-income areas. I mean, this is, again, we forget that, Latin America, South America is very much the same dynamics of colonialism. I mean, if anything, this dynamic of colonialism that was introduced by the Spanish is what influenced, our own system within the United States. So, again, the move comes after an initial meeting between, the coalition or the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities. No deal has been reached, but the two sides agreed to begin dialogue after a state of emergency was lifted at the request of CONAE. more than a week after President Lasso imposed it. But the president is also facing political pressure amid the crisis. Over the weekend, the National Parliament began a debate tabled by the opposition on removing him from office. It is set to conclude later this week. The extent of the disruption caused by the mass demonstration is significant. The blocking of key roads has led to fears of food shortages in the capital, Quito, as agricultural workers outside of it campaign for fairer food prices. Like, imagine that. You're literally like working with the food, but you can't afford it. Like, that's like, dude. So Leonidas Iza, the leader of CONE, who was briefly arrested over the protests, asked his supporters to guarantee corridors into the capital over the weekend for essential supplies. The weekend was broadly calm as demonstrators took a break amid the political movements, but concerns about supplies and the broad economic impacts remain. On Sunday, the Energy Ministry issued a statement warning that oil production, a key export which the country's economy relies on, could come to an end within 48 hours if protests and roadblocks continued this week. Production was at a critical point, it said, and could stop because of the vandalism, takeover of wells, and closing of roads. The country was hard hit by the pandemic, and its economy is still recovering. So, this is just a thing that we're going to see with developing nations, the global south. This is where the collapse starts, mainly with them. They just said that they're an oil-producing nation, and then, they can't afford, the people can't afford food, they can't afford fuel, man. And then watch, when they start nationalizing the oil industries, wow, what a surprise, there's a coup. So, best of luck to them. But, some good news at least, from a neighboring country in Colombia, is that they have elected their first left-wing president, Gustavo Petro, who has been noted as an ex-rebel fighter, an ex-communist, rebel fighter. I don't believe he's with FARC. I think it was M19. What's it called? Yeah. He wanted to make negotiations with them, but with FARC. But he's a ex-rebel, ex-guerrilla, and he has been democratically elected. And so, that's some good news at least. And I actually have some Colombian friends, and they were really big on Petro and trying to get him through. So it's good for them. And again, this is a major step. Already, Petro has, he said that he's going to open up the border with Venezuela. So it's, it's good to see the Bolivarian states, getting together and basically making steps to stand up to American imperialism. Okay, I was thinking of this meme. It's like, men only want one thing, and it's disgusting. And I'm just thinking, the Bolivarian state, the Bolivarian Union, Gran Colombia, right? So so reading also from BBC. So, Mr. Petro, a current senator, defeated the right-wing construction magnate Rodolfo Hernandez in Sunday's runoff election. Figures show he took 50.5% of votes, defeating his millionaire rival by a close margin of around 700,000 ballots. The result marks a major change for the country, which for decades has been led by moderate and conservatives. The vote was held among widespread discontent at the way the country has been run, and there were anti-government protests last year in which dozens of people were killed. The 62-year-old Mr. Petro hailed what he called a victory for, quote, a victory for God and for the people. Quote, may so much suffering be cushioned by the joy that today floods the hearts of the homeland, Mr. Petro wrote on Twitter. Quote, today is the day of the streets and squares. His running mate, Francia Marquez, a single mother and former housekeeper, will become the country's first black woman vice president. And it's actually funny too, because I saw this video of the vice president, leaving, and then Marquez entering the estate, whatever they hold the vice president, and this girl, the outgoing vice president was just okay, she just went out, but then Marquez was shaking the hands of all the attendants and all the servers, and it's just people even said because she looked like Lucille Ball, or not Lucille Ball, Lucille Bluth. Am I saying that right? I think y'all know what I'm talking about from Arrested Development, the mom. She looked exactly like her, and she had that attitude of and dude, because I don't want to get too personal, but like, my dad is married to a Venezuelan woman who is exactly like that. Exactly like that. It's so infuriating. They look down on people. It's just like, it's just like this petite bourgeois types, whatever. So, quote, I accepted the result of this election, he said, quote, I hope that Mr. Gustavo Petro knows how to run the country and is faithful to his discourse against corruption, he said. All right, so in a video posted to social media, Mr. Hernandez, who ran a non-traditional campaign that relied heavily on TikTok and other social media, conceded to Mr. Petro. So that was his opponent. President Ivan Duque, who was barred from seeking re-election by Colombia's term limits, said on Twitter that he called Mr. Petro to congratulate him. He added that he had agreed to meet in the coming days to initiate a harmonious, institutional, and transparent transition. Okay. Right, so Mr. Petro was a member of the now disbanded M19 movement in the 1980s. The rebel left-wing group was one of many guerrilla organizations that waged war against the state. He spent time in jail for illegal arms possession before joining the political opposition, who he served as both a senator and a congressman as well as mayor of Bogota. Mr. Petro ran on a radical manifesto and pledged during the campaign to fight inequality by providing free university education, pension reforms, and high taxes on unproductive land. He also pledged to fully implement a 2016 peace deal that ended a 50-year-long conflict with communist guerrilla group FARC and to seek negotiation with the still active ELN rebels. Yeah, I mean, there's some parts of Colombia that are like literally just like it's the Wild West. Like you can't. I think the Darien Gap is what they called it. Like that's a super dangerous part of the country or the world, really. At Gustavo's results party, the atmosphere is electric on stage and in the crowds. People were dancing salsa, enjoying every moment of an election like no other. Man, please, I wish I was Colombian right now. I really do. In a country that experienced decades of civil conflict, Gustavo Petro's critics highlighted his role as a former rebel, arguing his economic plans would spell disaster for the country, but his promises of inclusion and addressing poverty resonated with this deeply unequal country. For Ana Beatriz Acevedo, who represents displaced Afro-Colombian women, the election marks a major change for the country. Quote, one of the problems this country has is inequality in black and indigenous communities among women, she said. And they, Petro Marquez, represent that difference. One is mixed race and one is black, and both believe in inclusion. It is often cliche to call elections historic, but these rallies are. It's a huge departure for this conservative country and says a lot about how much the country has changed. Now Colombia will have its first ever leftist leader, and alongside him, the first ever black vice president, and that speaks volumes about the desire for a different political path. So, hey man, good for y'all. I'm really happy for them. I'm just worried about U.S. interference, CIA interference moving forward. I mean, they can't do it like Allende, right? Where they just like straight up just like did a whole coup against him. Like it's gonna have to be more soft power, you know. And it's funny too, cause like with this Ukraine war and like this like really like basically this run on oil prices, they basically like quietly the United States approved for Europe and other countries to do business with Venezuela. And so yeah, it just really speaks to the situation at hand. Like, you know, like watch, like they're lifting sanctions on Venezuela, and then what a surprise, things get better for Venezuela because there's no more blockade. Like that's a common argument that like anti-communists make. Well, if it's such an effective system, then they should do fine on their own. It's like, yeah, let's see what happens when the whole world stops doing business with the United States, which would actually be justified. It would be justified for the world to just do business with each other, but never trade with the U.S. Let's see how long we last. Right. So, continue on with other global South issues, such as, you know, consumer issues, prices. You know, I've been talking about the Sri Lanka crisis that's been happening, and so there was rioting in the city, you know, against politicians, especially this political family, you know, this corrupt political family. And so the situation in Sri Lanka is something to pay attention to because in a lot of ways it is linked with the global financial system. So I was kind of reading a bit of a rundown on what's happening. And so effectively, there's an imbalance with the exchange. They have rupees. So the central bank in Sri Lanka, they are charging more. Like the exchange rate is different than the international banking system. So $1 for the central banking system in Sri Lanka is 200 rupees. Meanwhile, $1 for the international system is 150 rupees. So that imbalance is causing people to take their foreign currency out of the central banking system in Sri Lanka, and so it is precipitating this crisis. And then also there was agricultural issues, like their crops failed, like they had fertilizer issues, and then so this is it's a cascade of economic crisis. So reading from Reuters, Sri Lanka will shut down hot schools and only allow fuel supplies to services deemed essential like health, trains, and buses for 2 weeks starting Tuesday, a minister said, in a desperate attempt to deal with a severe shortage. Sri Lanka is suffering its worst economic crisis, with foreign exchange reserves at a record low, and the island of 22 million struggling to pay for essential imports of food, medicine, and most critically, fuel. Industries like garments, a big dollar earner in the Indian Ocean nation, are left with fuel for about a week to 10 days. Current stocks of the country will exhaust in just under a week based on regular demand, Reuters calculations show. Sri Lanka will issue fuel only to trains and buses, medical services, and vehicles that transport food starting Tuesday until July 10th, Bandula Guniwardena, the spokesman for the government cabinet, told reporters. Schools in urban areas will be shut and everyone is urged to work from home, he said. Interprovincial bus service will be limited. Quote, Sri Lanka has never faced such an economic crisis in its history. Auto rickshaw driver W.D. Shelton, 67, said he had waited in line for 4 days for fuel. Quote, I haven't slept or eaten properly during this time, and we can't feed our families. Holy shit. 4 days. If you hear my cat running around, I had to let her out. She was in my room for a bit. Right. People tried to flee. The government is in talks with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, on a possible bailout, but many people can't wait that long, and demand for passports has surged. The Navy, in the early hours of Monday, arrested 54 people off the eastern coast as they tried to leave by boat, a spokesman said, on top of 35 boat people held last week. So, people are trying to leave, and they're like, nope. Embattled President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's elder brother resigned as prime minister last month after clashes between pro- and anti-government protesters spiraled into countrywide violence that left 9 dead and about 300 injured. An escalation of the fuel shortage could lead to a fresh wave of demonstrations. Opposition leader Sajith Permadasa called for the government to step down. Quote, the country has collapsed completely due to the fuel shortage, he said in a video statement. Quote, the government has lied to the people repeatedly and has no plan on how to move forward. The government fuel stockpile stands at about 9,000 tons of diesel and 6,000 tons of petrol, the power minister said on Sunday, but no fresh shipments are due. Lanka IOC, the local unit of Indian Oil Corporation, told Reuters it had 22,000 tons of diesel and 7,500 tons of petrol and was expecting another 30,000 tons shipment of petrol and diesel combined around July 13th. Sri Lanka consumes about 5,000 tons of diesel and 3,000 tons of petrol a day just to meet its transport requirements, Lanka IOC chief Manoj Gupta told Reuters. Other big consumers are industries like apparel and textile companies whose exports jumped to 30% to 482.7 million in May, according to data released on Monday. Quote, we have enough fuel for the next 7 to 10 days, so we are managing, said Johan Lawrence, Secretary General of the Sri Lanka Joint Apparel Associations Forum. Quote, we are watching and waiting to see if fresh fuel stocks arrive and what will happen in the coming days. Continuing, Sri Lanka's power regulator said the country was using its last stocks of furnace oil to run multiple thermal plants to keep power costs at minimum. Scheduled power cuts will rise to 3 hours from Monday from 2 and 2.5 earlier. Quote, we are hoping to keep power cuts at 3 to 4 hours for the next 2 months, said Janaka Ratanayak, chairman of the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka. Quote, but given the situation of the country, this could change. An IMF team is visiting Sri Lanka for talks on a $3 billion payout. An IMF team is visiting Sri Lanka for talks for a $3 billion bailout package. The country is hoping to reach a staff-level agreement before the visit ends on Thursday. That is unlikely to unlock any immediate funds. It has received about $4 billion in financial assistance from India, and the Sri Lankan government said on Monday the United States has agreed to provide technical assistance for its fiscal management. So yeah, this is a bit of a crisis, and in a lot of ways this is because of the international banking system. And I mean, of course, there is domestic corruptions, but it's just like the working people are getting screwed. Then, there's the COVID pandemic, and then also this Ukraine war, which is stretching gas supplies. Yeah, man, it's not a good situation for the global south. And of course, this sort of thing is just kind of ignored, it's just kind of just overlooked. And yeah, people are just like, oh, well, I mean, that's just the way things are supposed to be, those brown people are supposed to be, struggling day by day. And you see, they work, they don't complain about their situation. They just work. I've been in line for fuel for 4 days. I need food. I can't provide for my family. Oh, you see, he is pulling himself by his bootstraps, and it's just, that's just what they have to deal with. It sucks. Yeah, when they were having those riots, it was pretty severe. So, I mean, if it gets worse than that, then holy shit, man. And, Sri Lanka has already been dealing with civil war and the Tamil Tigers and all this violence, unrest. I mean, they've been able to now do away with that. There's probably still insurgents in the island, but yeah, man, this could really become like a collapse situation for them. And then, of course, there would be an international response to it, but it's just like the reason they're in that mess is kind of on the international financial system. Hey, whatever. Anyway. So moving on, so that's what I wanted to talk about for the international segment of the show. So moving forward, I was going to talk about natural events. We have all these reports from the UN. I've covered in past episodes, IPCC. They're all saying code red. This is what I mean to people when they're like, "Oh, you just have an attitude issue. You got to change your attitude. You really think the world is ending? Dude, the fucking UN is saying this." Like, I literally showed somebody the UN report, and he's just like, no, that's not true. I'm like, and then it's like, yeah, there's no mass extinction happening. I'm just like, again, this is my fault because I fall into these traps all the time, and I want to have a reasonable discussion, but then it's just like, no, I just don't believe that, and you're crazy, and you know what you're talking about. You're being radicalized. You're being influenced. You're spreading misinformation. Oh my God, I hate life so much. It's just so crazy. And then all these things keep getting worse. Anyway, so what I want to talk about is, so in this area of the Southeast Asia, I was talking about Sri Lanka, although now we're talking more about natural events, natural disasters. So in Bangladesh, which is, notorious for flooding, it's a pretty low-lying area. And so in Bangladesh, there have been flooding, record flooding. This is just what's going to keep happening over there. Also, this coupled with sea level rise. So it's just not a good area to live in. But those people are stuck there. There's millions of people in Bangladesh. And over 80% of the country is low-lying floodplains. It's just, that's going to, again, we're going to see this. This is going to be a common trend. So, I'm reading from the NY Times, New York Times. So, Rohima Begun was cooking breakfast last week when the floodwaters flowed into her tin and bamboo home and began racing across the floor. Miss Begum, her 3 children, and her mother made a quick escape in a small boat. When they looked back, their house and their possessions had been swept away. Quote, "I'm having a tough time here, and I don't know what comes next." Miss Begum, 28, said this week at a school building in Bangladesh's landlocked northeast, where hundreds of flood victims have been sheltering. The Asia-Pacific region is used to occasional floods. Again, the cat. I had her at a boarding place over the weekend, just for a birthday break. So she's been pretty active today. So I didn't want her to be in the room all day, but yeah. So moving forward, in the Asia-Pacific region, They're used to occasional flooding. In Bangladesh and elsewhere, the rhythms of local life have adapted over centuries to the annual monsoon that typically runs from June to September and provides water that farmers need to grow rice, a primary food in many countries. But this year, the rains have been especially intense, a harsh reminder that climate change is bringing more extreme weather around the world. In China, where recent flooding has displaced hundreds of thousands of people, the state-run news media reported this week that water levels have surged beyond flood levels in more than 100 rivers. In Bangladesh and northern India, recent flooding has washed away towns and train stations, killing dozens of people and displacing millions of others. As of Friday, at least 68 people in Bangladesh have died since mid-May from flood-related causes, including drowning, electrocutions, and landslides, the government data shows. More than 4,000 people have been infected with waterborne diseases. Crops have been destroyed. The Northeast, an area that produces most of the rice for a country of about 170 million people, has been especially hit hard. At least 384,000 people have been displaced in Misbagum's home region in Sylhet, one of 6 in the Northeast, said Mosharraf Hossain, the divisional commissioner. Quote, every piece of real estate in Bangladesh is populated and this entire area is underwater, said Shelton Yet, the United Nations Children's Fund representative to the country, referring to the Northeast. As rescues continued, an immediate concern is that waterborne diseases will affect more people, Mr. Yet said, adding that he had already seen a rise in reports of diarrhea. Though the latest rains were tapering off, he noted more is in the forecast for the coming days and weeks. Quote, protracted climate change emergencies don't always get front page coverage, and because of that, they sometimes disappear beneath the waves, he added. Quote, in Bangladesh, it's figurative as well as literal. Linking climate change to a single flood event requires extensive scientific analysis, but that's what is happening. That's what it is. Continuing. But climate change, which is already causing heavier rainfall and many storms, is an increasingly important part of the mix. So again, they got to be oh, well, it's a lot of research. We don't know, but maybe. No, it is. That's what it is. Warmer atmospheres holds and releases more water. So these storms are wetter. They drop more rain, and they're creating these flooding events. I mean, I loosely use the term survivor, but I am a witness to Hurricane Harvey monsoon, the rainfall, dude. And I was very lucky. My father and I were very lucky, and his partner were very lucky that we were up on the second floor, and we didn't lose power through that. So we were very comfortable during that situation, but our neighbors, down the street, there was a whole community that the Cajun Navy had to ferry people out because the water was rising as they were trying to evacuate, it was getting up to their neck, dude. And then they had the Coast Guards and helicopter rescues around us. It's not really, it's a big story in our city, but what had occurred is that the dams were about to burst. There's 2 river systems. There's the Addicks and Baker's reservoir system, dam system. And so it was about to burst, and they had to flood our area to basically save the city. And again, this is what is awesome about capitalism, is that those homes that got flooded, when the people were buying them, they had no requirements the real estate agents had no requirements to tell them to get flood insurance, because there was a floodplain. It was a floodplain, and it was specifically designed, that area, to be used as to be as backwater or whatever. I don't know what the proper term is, but it was deliberate. They knew that if an emergency situation happened with the dam system, that they would have to flood this little community to save the dam. And this is this is a white suburban area, so the fact that this happened to them was you flooded our town, so I mean, of course they sued, and they of course got their money back, and so that was in their favor. But yeah, imagine though if that was a low income working class, Mexican or black area, that would have not have turned out, they would have not have gotten any compensation, or again, I mean, it's good that that area is recovering pretty well, but at the same time, it's just like, I would not buy a house there. I would not, because like there's going to be more of these storms. Anyway, right, so continuing with this Bangladesh flooding, scientists have determined that global warming made the record rainfall that led to devastating floods in Germany and Belgium last summer much more likely. In South Asia, recent research has strengthened the theory that climate change is disrupting the annual monsoon. India and Bangladesh are particularly vulnerable to climate change because they sit near the tropical waters of the Indian Ocean and the Bay of Bengal. In 2020, torrential rains left at least quarter of Bangladesh submerged. Last year, extreme rainfall and landslides washed away a sprawling Rohingya refugee camp overnight. Quote, now we are past the phase of asking if each of these extreme weather events is due to climate change, said Roxy Matthew Cole, a climate scientist at the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology. Quote, the question has become obsolete and a frequent distraction from working towards a climate solution. Abdus Sattar, 70, a former village mayor in northeastern Bangladesh, is not a climate scientist, but he had no trouble putting the scale of the latest floods in historical context. Quote, I have never seen a flood like this, said Mr. Sattar, who was sheltering on Thursday in the same converted school building as Miss Begum. Quote, my father used to tell me many stories of their struggles, but he never told me about anything like this flood. It has ruined many of the villagers. Miss Begum, her mother and her 3 children, aged 4 to 10, fled to the schoolhouse in Pekralhal. After their home was washed away on June 17th, her husband has been in Saudi Arabia for the last 6 months looking for a job in construction. Their schoolhouse shelter, which sits in a submerged area accessible only by boat, has 1 toilet for about 190 families. Wow. The sacks of rice that some flood victims brought have made it even more crowded. When she arrived, Miss Begum had no provisions because she had left her home in such a hurry. Initially, her family had to drink flood water. She said they also did not eat for 2 days until another family shared a meal with them. They now have a small stockpile of rice, sugar, and bottled water provided by aid workers, Miss Begum said, but her children still cry. My mother says I'm a beautiful woman, she said, but in the last week I became ugly. This is a really messed up situation. They lost everything. They're refugees. Like they're eating rice and sugar. Like there's no protein. It's just fucked up, man. And this is just what's happening for them. Like again, like that guy, he said, because this is a region that historically has always dealt with flooding, but like they're saying like, no, we've never seen anything like this. Like the elders are like, this is nothing like we've ever seen. So if all these elders are sharing their experiences about their upbringing and how there's a very clear difference in terms of weather events, maybe something's happening. Who knows? Again, you never really pay attention to the indigenous peoples and like their connection with the land. They're far more connected with the land and the weather events and the climate. So when they're saying that something's off, it's kind of just like, well, where's your science, Right. So, right, I'm talking about, flooding. And so I also wanted to talk about some other flooding events that have been happening, within the United States. And so there have been flooding events and flash flooding in New Mexico. It's like kind of crazy. They're just like getting washed out. So I'm bringing from KOAT, which is like a local source near Albuquerque, or just Roswell is reporting, saying that heavy rains fell over Roswell on Sunday, leaving 1 bridge collapsed and at least a dozen homes underwater as floodwaters rose. According to the KOAT 7 weather team, some areas of Roswell saw 1 to 3 inches of rainfall in a short amount of time. Roswell city officials are calling the event a 100-year flood after 3.3 inches of rainfall fell in only 1 hour's time. The National Weather Service reports 1 small bridge collapse. How's cat? Sorry. The National Weather Service reports 1 small bridge collapse due to floodwaters near Mescalero Road and La Jara Road. The NWS also reported at least 12 homes were flooded in the Holly Loop subdivision. Emergency crews diverted water through cinder block walls to try and alleviate flooding in the subdivision. Sand and sandbags are available at 320E Alameda in Roswell. You will need to bring your own shovel to fill the sandbags. Do not attempt to drive through floodwaters. Okay. Yeah, so, right, let's see what else. Okay, but yeah, no, this is, there's a short little, oh, no. No, this little quick article about the situation. But yeah, that's, you know, as I said, it's a 100-year flood, and it's just crazy what we're seeing now. There's a stark difference. We get like, periods and periods of drought, no rain, and then the rain comes and it's just a downpour. So again, it's just an extreme of on every side in terms of weather. So that's their situation in New Mexico. And again, they were dealing with wildfires not too long ago, and how they're getting flooding, and yeah, it's it's what it is. Again, like, and again, as I said, some of these areas like Roswell, that's pretty remote. It's a pretty remote part of the state. So like, a small bridge collapsing, getting washed away, that could really disrupt transportation. And yeah, man, like, it's those people are out there, man. It's the boons out there. So like, they need all the roads working, right? So speaking on flooding, so I've talked about flooding, and now I want to gear more towards droughts, heat, wildfires, and such. And so specifically talking about my state. So I've been kind of talking about my theories about different events for the summer. And so I was talking about, again, because like it's either an extreme, it's either going to be heat and drought or raining, flooding, monsoons. So right now, well, actually there have been some rain. Like right now, there are some weather storms passing through. Not in my area, at least, because we definitely need some rain. But it's just like little pockets of thunderstorms. Maybe later in the week we'll get some rain, hopefully. But again, I don't want flash flooding, so let's just hope for that. Oh, wow, actually, that's a pretty big system. But it's like moving away from where I'm at. So I'm looking at the radar. But yeah, so we'll see about later in the week. Hopefully we can get some rain, because it's getting pretty dry. Like the grass is pretty dead. Yeah, but the heat's been bad. Like it's been 100 plus for the last couple of days. And then, of course, with the humidity, it makes it like, like 106, 107 sometimes. It's hot, man. Like even when I'm out in the, because sometimes I still got to do DoorDash, and yeah, my AC doesn't work. Whatever. It's like I'll be in the shade, and so I'm fine, but my phone is overheating just from the air temperature alone. That's how hot it is. So it's like I can do DoorDash in the heat, no problem, but my phone, that's what's preventing me from doing the work that I need to do. And again, I do have my 9 to 5, but it's like I can't do 40 hours straight. It's so mind-numbing, and then it also takes away from the work that I can do for the podcast and research. And so it's just like I'm trying to make up for it, but then it's just the heat makes it impossible for me to do side work. Anyway, I know it sounds like I'm making excuses and I'm trying to hustle, but if my phone wasn't overheating, I'd be doing a lot of work. So again, we're just in this drought situation. Hopefully we can get some rain to cool things down. So, right, and I'm reading from the Houston Public Media, and so they're talking about nearly 80% of Texas is experiencing a drought or drought conditions. And so about 80% of Texas is currently experiencing some level of drought conditions ranging from moderate to exceptional. The drought, which caused wildfires across the state earlier this year and prompted a burn ban, is now negatively affecting farmers and ranchers. A lack of rain during the spring resulted in lower crop production and decreased soil moisture levels with no signs of relief. Quote, "This is a tough situation," Tracy Tomsick, from the Texas Farm Bureau told Houston Matters on Monday, comparing this year to the historic Texas drought in 2011. Quote, "It's something that we hoped we'd all put in the back of our minds, but this year it has a little sting to it. Hay supply is down, and 78% of the wheat supply in Texas is in poor or very poor condition." Wow. It's as bad as it's been since 2011, if not worse. It's a Texas state climatologist, John Nielsen Gammon, said about the state's wheat supply, quote, "2011 was a wake-up call. I think that experience will be a considerable help this time around." Tomsick said that the farmers are monitoring their crops, focusing on drought-tolerant corn and grain crops varieties. Quote, "To be in agriculture, you've got to constantly be flexible," Tomsick said. Because of the shortage of hay, many ranchers and farmers are starting to sell their herds in order to maintain good conservation practices of the land. Livestock have been have to be reduced, Tomczyk said, adding that agricultural supply chain has faced disruptions as ingredients have been removed, straining the system. Quote, it is not just a COVID issue, it's a drought issue as well. Talking about the supply chain problems. May and June are typically the wettest months of the year in Texas and are prime months for plant growth. Hungry plants and no rain can quickly lead to a bad situation. It's a flash drought, quote, Nielsen Gammon said about the combination of factors working together to cause Texas's current weather conditions and agricultural obstacles. The drought is also causing water supply issues statewide as officials ask residents to conserve water. Quote, the way the weather pattern looks, it's going to be like that for a while, Nielsen Gammon said. While Houston has not been severely affected by drought conditions, Nielsen Gammon said that could change. Quote, coastal areas have been fairly dry, and with high temperatures, the dryness is spreading over the whole area now. Currently, more than 140 counties across Texas have implemented burn bans, including neighboring Liberty, San Jacinto, Walker County, which is where I'm at, Grimes, Waller, and Galveston County. And yes, we have a Grimes County. So chew on that. But anyway, yeah, that's what we're at right now. I mean, like, it's not like it's bad. You know, we're certainly feeling it, but it's not getting. I don't know how to describe it, because like there's still plenty of green and some of these trees and plants are still good, but now it's starting to affect. And July and August are typically also very hot months, and so that is when we could see some issues, climate-wise, or dealing with forest fires, possibly. I don't know. I earlier in the year I did see some burnings. I'm pretty sure they did some controlled burnings in the national forest. I mean, like Huntsville is like literally in the middle of two national forests, so like we're I like this area because there's more green. Like I can't go to Houston. Like I just can't. Like I didn't even go to Houston for my birthday. I can't. It's too much. But it's nice to be in an area where there's green. But then on the flip side, now that we're entering a drought situation, that could increase the chances for a forest fire. So that's something I'm going to have to keep an eye on. And again, like I feel kind of unprepared because like I do have sensitive respiratory, like earlier, like with this pollen, because we get bad pollen out here. Like I almost had an asthma attack. Like that's how bad it can get. And so I'm very sensitive in terms of breathing, air quality. So a forest fire with all that smoke and soot, like that could really mess me up. And again, but I'm not in a position to get a gas mask at the moment. So I've seen resources to make an improvising mask, so that might be something I have to do. But again, I have to monitor the situation and hope that there's some rain that comes down soon. But then, of course, when that rain comes, it's probably going to be a downpour, a deluge. So it's just like, But yeah. It's funny too, because like in the 2011 drought that we had, which was bad, I remember going to Lake Travis and just seeing how like low the water was. Like that was wild. It was like over 100 feet of just evaporated water. It's crazy. But yeah, no, the governor at the time, Rick Perry, he had a national day of prayer. So I imagine this is something Greg Abbott's going to do soon. If things get really bad, we'll have a national day for the rain. Ah, yes, pray for the rain. It's just like they'll look at Indians doing a rain dance. Ah, look at these savages. Oh, pray for the rain, Lord, please. And I also saw some other video. I don't know if it was Texas, but it was one of those red states where like there was a guy, he was praying at his AC unit. It's just like, and it was done in a way where it's like, this has to be a parody. Like, if this is a parody, this is like the perfect troll, because it's just like, there's no way anybody seriously would do that. But no, it seems like that was a genuine thing for the guy. He was praying for the AC unit. Oh, we need guidance, so I need to pray for strength, and I need to. Oh my goodness, man. Yeah, man, these folks are in for a rude awakening with this heat. But of course, like, there's no real self-reflection. Oh, what? Global warming? Watch when there's a fucking blizzard that passes through. Oh, you were talking about global warming, but look, there's snow. Oh, look at that. Checkmate. Yeah, there was like a hail that, there was a hailstorm / snowstorm in Mexico City like a couple weeks ago. Like, checkmate, look at that. There's a snowball in June. Ha ha ha. no climate change. It's just, yeah, whatever. Yeah, man. Oh well. I mean, it sucks for those farmers. They got to deal with a lot. I mean, and again, like it's kind of funny because a lot of these farmers are conservative minded, and like they're not. Like you guys are literally watching the effects of climate change in front of you, and then it's still just like, well, I'm not a scientist, okay? Listen, I'm not a scientist, all right? But this climate change thing kind of sounds kind of iffy. It's like I'm not a scientist, but I'm not going to listen to the scientists, so I'm just going to say that so that way I can like appeal to other anti-intellectuals, you know, like, yeah, okay, you're not a fucking nerd. Yeah, so that's Texas. And again, you know, I'm looking, because when it comes to like, because I don't want to live in Texas, first off. Like, never mind the climate effects that are going to get worse here. I just don't want to live in Texas because this is going to turn more and more and deeper into a fascist police state, more than it already is. It's like all the GOP people are leaving, like California and all these blue areas. They're coming to Texas. All right, they're not going to Mississippi or Alabama. They're not going to Georgia. They're going to Texas. And this place is going to get bad, like really soon. This is going to get really bad. It truly feels like it's like a bad day away from deliverance. Yeah, it's and I know that's Appalachian, but whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying. So yeah. Yeah, man. It's and again, you know, every time like I have these conversations with like, because people always want to talk about the guns that I have that I sold already, but they still always have to bring it up because, oh, you're wasting your money. Oh, it's like, you know what? I can't afford to get lynched. Okay, like I can't just be like, oh, okay, I guess I'll die. Like, what the fuck? My goodness, man. Oh no, the police will protect you. Sure, right? Okay, it's just fucking ridiculous. Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, I am worried about violence out here. I really am. I am worried about it. Because the state GOP, they had a platform. They had a whole like convention earlier. And secession is on the platform. It is. Now, of course, it's one of those things that like they're not really serious about it. They just put it out there so they can be like, oh, look, we're, you know. It's like from what I've, like some theories I've read from comments, it's like they put that there to distract from other things in their platform. Because that is so outlandish and so out there. But like, there are some people that really want to secede. Like they do. They really want to do that. Now, of course, the urban centers would never allow that. But, you know, again, even if there was a referendum vote, there would probably just end up being an insurgency of some kind. Like there would, like, dude, like, this place is a powder keg, okay? And that's why I want to fucking leave. You know, because I'm talking about climate change and, you know, I have to consider, you know, I have to move to an area, as I was saying, that is progressive, left-leaning, where there's a stronghold, but also considering the climate effects. And the you know, the mark is 2050. So what are the climate effects going to be in this area? What is this cat doing? I'm sorry if you hear a litter box, but by 2050, what are the conditions going to be? And so I was thinking about Colorado, but now looking at some of these climate models and also just taking into consideration like fresh water and such, it's like, you know what? Those conditions around Albuquerque are certainly going to extend into Colorado. And, you know, there's no like, it's like, it's a landlocked region, you know, and, you know, it's on the, you know, because, you know, those mountain systems, what happens is that all the evaporation vapor from the ocean, it falls, like, think of it like, so the left side is the ocean side and the right side is the land, the continental side. And so the ocean side is going to get all the precipitation, and then the continental side will be just arid and desert. And that's where Colorado is. It's on that continental side. So that's just, again, because I was thinking, oh yeah, Colorado, I like mountains. I like smoking pot. But now I'm just thinking like, no, wait, climate effects might make that place into a wasteland, a desert. So I got to go back to the drawing board and see what regions I can move to. You know, considering the political situation and climate effects. So I read somewhere that the Great Lakes region would be a good place to move to. So who knows? But again, I kind of want to live more like rurally. Like I want to have my own land. So I don't want to go to like the Rust Belt region, but I still want to be at least close to civilization. So I don't know. I was thinking maybe Upper Peninsula, Michigan. it's like, think about it. Is a choke point, and that's assuming that like I'm able to partner up with other people, and yeah, it's I don't know. Again, it's just like where you're gonna move, and of course I can't do things alone. Like I would like to partner up, but then again, it's just like I'm a communist doomer, so it's just like it's pretty hard to form connections and such. But anyway, so that's Texas. I kind of just went off on a tangent, but before I finish up with the main show, I'm gonna wrap up with some other wildfire situations, mainly in New Jersey. And so the East Coast doesn't usually have wildfires like this. It's not really known for that, but now we're seeing it. So a rating from NBC Philadelphia. Another wildfire burned in southern New Jersey forest, but this was quickly contained. The New Jersey Forest Fire Service first reported the blaze in the Brandon T. Byron State Forest off Pasadena Road in Woodland and Manchester Townships Sunday afternoon, but late Sunday night, the fire had reached 300 acres in size and was 50% contained. By Monday morning, the flames and smoke could be seen from the forest as Sky Force 10 hovered overhead. Around 10 a.m., fire crews had the blaze 100% contained at 315 acres of forest land. You could see some smoke, however, the Forest Fire Service said. So, yeah, no injuries were reported. The Byron fire remained much smaller than another recent South Jersey fire. This latest wildfire came more than a week after a fire broke out in the Wharton State Forest, along the Mullica River in the Pines Barren sections of Burlington County. That fire, which officials believe could have been caused by an illegal campfire, burned 13,500 acres of forest fire or state forest in Burlington County and a small part of Atlantic County. The search for the cause of the Byron forest fire continued Monday. Wow. Yeah, so I mean, they were saying that there was another forest fire that was pretty more significant, caused by illegal campfires. And so, again, the East Coast isn't really known for, situations like this. This is pretty, unprecedented. But still, it's just something to get used to because, things are going to get more arid and, there's going to be changes in the East Coast and other parts of the country that haven't experienced wildfires like this. Conditions are getting drier and vegetation is getting, crispier. There's more fuel, and sometimes they don't fully clean out the undergrowth, the fuel. So that usually is what accelerates those fires. And again, that's what they had. So that's really what I have for now. Again, we are, watching these things occur and just trying to follow them as they happen. And so we're just really in an unprecedented time, especially, I was talking about abortions and, Roe v. Wade getting overturned. So it's not just the climate issues that are happening, but it's also the political one. And again, there's just this attitude of just, well, you know what? You need to stop complaining and you just need to focus on yourself. Who cares if women's rights are being stripped away? Who cares if working people are drowning in debt? You just got to shut the fuck up, you little bitch. And you just got to work. You just work and you stop complaining and you just, it's just like, what's the point? We're not going to improve things. Like I was thinking about this the other day. It's like, if there were like lions and tigers released every like 5 or 10 years and then they just ate people in the street, 8 homeless people, eight people just trying to go to, grocery stores. And then there's a lion just like eating people. And we're like, hey, and it's not even like a naturally occurring event. Like there's just some billionaire who's paying off the police and military to be like, yeah, I want to release lions and people are going to die. And here, just don't do anything. I'll pay you. Like that's like, I mean, I'm just speaking figuratively. And if like that were happening and like we said, hey, like no other country has lions and tigers eating people in the street. Maybe we should change this. Oh, why don't you just go to fucking China? Why don't you just go to Cuba? Stop complaining. Stop being a whiny bitch. Just go to work and focus on yourself and stop it. Just shut up. I don't want to change. All right. Change is scary. So who cares if people are getting eaten in the street? That's the attitude. Again, like at the end of the day, it's just the question of why. Why do you not want to fix anything? Why do you want people to? I'm not speaking to you, the listener. I'm just like whenever you're dealing with somebody like this, just like, you know, if you want to have, if you're actually gonna debate them, just ask them, why do you want working people to drown in medical debt? Why do you want people to drown in school debt? Why do you want people to be working wages that don't meet the standard of living? I mean, they never were, and now things are getting more expensive, and they're still not going to raise wages. They're not. And people are going to get laid off, and it's just a cycle, which is just like, look, why? Because life is good for you right now, so you don't have to think about other people suffering because it's their fault. Oh yeah, no, everything is personal responsibility, right? You know? Oh, Gabe, you're 26 years old, and you know you should have already had your act together by now. You should have already figured this out by now. You know, it's like my whole life, all I've ever done is, you know, tried my best and, you know, tried to. It's like riding a bike on like this pothole like gravel road, and then it's like, oh well, you haven't figured things out by now. You're 26 years old. Here, I'm gonna slash your tires, and just there you go. Figure it out now. It's like that's what it feels like. I don't know. Again, I get kind of like personal. You know, actually, I have been doing counseling sessions. I've been talking with counseling sessions. It's actually kind of a different thing because it's like I'm talking to a master's student. So there's some like discrepancies. But hey, you know, I need to talk to somebody, and it's certainly nice at least that it's because it's a woman my age, a young woman my age. And she's nice, but again, I have to keep it professional. I don't want to turn it into a Tony Soprano, Dr. Melfi thing. Like, I don't want that. It's just nice to have a safe space and talk to somebody who gets it, or at the very least isn't going to be judgmental when I tell them, you know, certain poor decisions I've made in my life. I don't know. I mean, that's all we really need sometimes, is somebody to talk to, right? But, yeah, you know. And it's funny too. I mean, if you've listened to this far, like, it's funny. Like, my birthday was the other day, and so the day before, I was like doing my remote work on the computer, and then all of a sudden, my power cuts out. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what? And then what it turned out is, because I moved into a sublease, and so this is like one of those situations where like they probably did tell me this, but I had to deal with so much and like there's a mountain of work to do that like it just slipped my mind, and then like shit hit the fan. So the people that I had moved into, who had the sublease for this place, they were paying for the energy. I had no idea. I thought I was just paying my bills and then it would just go straight in. But no, like I have to pay the bills separately, the energy bill. I thought it was already included. Then I look over at the lease agreement. Yeah, no, it's separate. Okay, that's my fault. But again, you know, I didn't fully understand it until the power got cut off right in the middle of me working. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I go to the front office. I'm like, hey, my power's out. And they're like, oh yeah, you got a separate account with Entergy. I'm like, what the fuck? But I mean, they said they told me, and they probably did. Whatever. Okay. And then I had to call Entergy and set up an account. And then these guys were like, okay, well, we have to put you through the verification process, which can take up to 2 days. And yeah, we can't really fast track anything. So yeah, you're just going to be without power for an unspecified amount of time. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, dude, my food's going to go bad. Like, and they're just like, yes, we understand that's very unfortunate. But unfortunately, there's nothing we can do. Just like, oh, God damn it. So and again, you know, the whole time I'm thinking like, yeah, okay, it's my fault. All right, whatever. You know, it's just bullshit. And I went to visit my friend. So like we were scheduling for him to come over, you know, because it was my birthday weekend. We were gonna chill out, and smoke, and all whatever. But oh shit, okay, I have no power, so I can't have him over. So I went to go over him and his partner's place, and yeah, we hung out, and it was nice. I got to watch some Better Call Saul. That's a really good show. I didn't finish that. It's a really good show. But yeah, but I was able to get my power back, and my food didn't go bad. I brought some basic stuff over to their place so it wouldn't spoil. But the food that I did leave behind is okay now, so that's like a huge relief because the food situation that I was upset about. But yeah, man, just that 24-hour period where I had to like because I couldn't necessarily, I had to wait a day for them to have me over. Just that period alone of me, like, without air conditioning was torture. Like, I had a fan, so luckily I was able to have some, like, this little, like, I had like a little clamp so I could, like, place it on a ledge, and then I would have air in my face. Wow, man. Like, just already in, like, the first, like, hour, like, I could feel it. I'm just like, oh my God, how do homeless people survive in this? And I'm like, there's no air conditioning, but luckily I'm like in an enclosed space with shade. And even at a certain point, like at night when I went out to just like, throw some trash out, it was cooler outside than it was in my room. Like yeah, man, like, that's what I was having to deal with. But luckily my power is back and I don't have to worry about that at the moment. And actually I was looking, online, because, Texas has these rolling blackouts, especially with the heat. You can't have power in the heat or the cold. Great system. But I was actually looking at it, and so the area that I'm in is actually independent. I believe from the ERCOT system. It's Entergy, which is centered around like Louisiana and Arkansas. So I'm pretty sure we're basically our own thing. We're not connected with the main Texas grid, which is really interesting. And it actually explains a lot because during the winter blizzard that we had, I had the power back pretty quickly, actually. It was like less than 48 hours the power was back, which is, good. I mean, like I was able to like, but by that point, like I was, keeping myself warm with firewood. And at that point I was starting to feel the pinch. I'm like, okay, this is a bad situation. Let's get the power back. And then it came back. So I was lucky. And then I had, man, if only I had somebody there with me so they can like, avow to this. But like, I was like melting. I was scraping down all the snow on my car and melting it down. And I had the mini Sawyer filters and using that to filter it down. I had a whole assembly system going, and I was like up like almost like 20 hours just melting down snow, getting the clean water. Because the power, I didn't know if the power was going to go out any second. So like I just kept working straight, and it's just like, if only people could have seen the work that I was putting in, and the fact that I had my shit together, I had my stuff ready, and then when a crisis hit, I was ready to address it. And then I keep talking about this situation a lot. It's just like, it's like when people think I'm a doomer and like I'm a prepper, it's like a lot of people get the bad idea about me, about like, oh, you're just going to be on the street and you're going to shoot people. What the fuck? No. Like, my first objective always is to connect with neighbors and form a group. Again, like, I might have my social quirks, but, it's just like, I don't want to be useless. I want to be useful. I want to help. I do. I want to help out my neighbors and make sure they're okay. So, it's kind of hard sometimes because people are always on edge, especially if you're, say, neurodivergent, maybe ADHD, autistic, and yeah, or, you're dealing with stress and anxiety issues, self-image issues. And so it's kind of hard to, make connections. It really is. And then, that's why I get worried about a crisis SHTF situation out here. Because, like, I try to be polite with my neighbors. Sometimes they give me, like, the side eye or something like that. And it's just like, I don't know what else to do to, to let their guard down. Because, again, people get very suspicious if you're a quiet person. It's like, oh, what's he doing? Oh, and it's just like, so I get worried about an SHTF situation out here because it's like a lot of the times people, they just want to, like, if they think that you're a threat and the rule of law goes out the window, they just don't want to take a chance with you and they'll just try to get rid of you. And so that's why I get so worried about my personal defenses and such. I don't really have, my friends left out of town, so it's like I'm back to square one socially. And again, a lot of the kids out here, they see a guy like me and they think, oh, this guy only talks about politics and economics. And it's like, hey man, why don't you talk about, I don't know. It's just like, I feel so disconnected sometimes. Anyway, I'm just like rambling on. I'm just talking. I mean, if you're listening at this point, thank you for putting up with me. But I'm going to sign off now because I need to, handle my life at the moment. But yeah, I'm with my kitty cat. And I, as I said, I picked her up from the boarding, vet clinic. So she's been all over me today. Hey. Let me see if you can listen to her purring. Let's see. Can you hear that? Who knows? She's such a baby. I know. But anyway, appreciate the time that you have with me and listen to me ramble on. And so, moving forward, I'm really trying to, find some stability. Hopefully, because I still have to register for this class or for my classes the fall semester. Hopefully, I can get that sorted out. But yeah, that's just life right now. And just trying to get my registration in. But life is good, as you can hear. This little girl is content. She is loud. Hold on. Okay. Well, thank you so much for listening. And again, if you have reached this far, I highly encourage that you check out my Patreon. So it's all $1. If you want 48 hours access, all I ask is for $1. Then you can get the early access there. Again, I only have one person. Okay, so thanks to you. You're my dude. But anyway, you can definitely be a part of the club and definitely help out and get early access. Again, I know I'm cringe sometimes, but hey, we all gotta live. So yeah, so check that out. Yeah, and thank you again for tuning in. Have a blessed day. And hey, and I especially want to talk to any female listeners listening. I know things are scary. And I know it's really hard to trust men sometimes because, I was talking to my cousin and she was telling me about all these guys all of a sudden that, she had known for years. All of a sudden now they're kind of, forcing themselves upon her. So it's what the fuck? It's just again, I don't feel the need to apologize on behalf of all men because that would be a little cringy, but it's more just I know right now there's darkness. At the same time, this is the way that you've had to live for a long time. I mean, this is just the way, unfortunately, women have had to live. Now it's more on the nose, and there is a war on women. And so, again, I just want to add that note because it's just it's sad. It's really sad the way things are. And then, it's just and then for a woman, it's you can have a guy friend in your life, and then just one day, just a switch flips, and then he's something else. And and again, I haven't been always on my best behavior either. So that's not harassment or threatening, but it's still just it sucks when you've had your own issues in terms of dating or relationships with women, and it's just and then you have to reflect on it. It's just fuck, I have to do better. And also not only that, dealing with guy friends who might make side comments, they might just casually call a girl or woman a bitch, and it's just what the fuck, and again, I'm speaking to guys, we have to do better. We have to stand up to that. If we hear certain comments, certain behaviors, again, some guys will just put up with their guy friend just being a creep, just outright creep. And they're just oh yeah, he's just joking. It's just no, he's not. Anyway, so again, appreciate the time for listening, and hopefully life is, hopefully you can find something to look forward to, because I know things are bleak and we are deep in fascism now. It's no longer something that can be hidden. It's what it is. So again, just do what you can locally. Yeah. Thank you for your time, and have a great day.